Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings of peace. Why are your eyes beautiful? Because Allah made them beautiful. No, like, why are they actually beautiful? Well, a big part of the eye's beauty is in its color. Why are our eyes colorful? And what's the colorful part in the eye? Let's get right into it. First of all, what's the colorful part of the eye called? It's called the iris. What's that black hole in the middle? That's called the pupil. No pupil jokes. So here you have the iris. It's shaped like a flat donut or a flat disc, and in the middle of it you have this black hole, and that's called the pupil. Now, what does it do? Well, its main function is to control how much light you let into the eye. Subhanallah, how does it do that? We'll talk about that in another video. Now, why is it so pretty? Well, it has this dye in it, or what we call a pigment, and this dye is the same dye that's in your skin and gives it its beautiful color, and that's called melanin. Well, so here we have what's called a cross section. So we've cut the iris as if we've cut a donut, and you're just looking at the edge of it, and you can see right here, this is the edge of the iris, and here on the right you'd have the pupil, and this is the front of the iris right on top. This is what's facing the world, and this is the base of the iris. This is what's behind the iris in that black empty space that you can see in the eye. But for why the iris is so beautiful, subhanallah, the reason is this area here, we call this the stroma. So you basically think of this as a big spongy area just filling the space, and it's full of little cells. These cells, they're actually full of dye. They make the dye called melanin, and you can actually see right here that the cells in the base of this iris, they are full of melanin, and you can't even make out the cell outlines anymore. It's just full of this dye, and so together the cells in this spongy area in the middle and the cells in the base down here, they produce this dye called melanin, and they basically collect this melanin and they sit there just looking pretty, literally. And now you're wondering, why do people have different colored irises? Some people have brown irises, some have blue, some have green, some have, well, no one has orange irises. Well, so the color of your iris actually depends on how much melanin or how much of this dye your cells produce. So if they produce a lot of melanin or a lot of this dye, and you have this area full of this dye, then your eyes look darker. You will have a darker shade such as brown, darker brown, or even black irises. Whereas if your cells produce very little melanin, or they produce less melanin or less dye, you're going to end up with a lighter, brighter color like blue, or even one of the rarest colors, green. Now, as a fun fact, brown irises are the most common color in the world. What's the plural for irises anyway? Is it like iri or iridices? Iridices. Alrighty. And remember, beauty is subjective, and as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe quite literally. Alright, let's take a look at some irises to appreciate the beauty of Allah's creation. So here we have a beautiful shot of a brown iris, subhanAllah, and you can see in this case that the iris is fully opened, making the pupil very large in the middle, and we'll talk about why the iris does this in the next video, inshallah. Here we have another amazing shot of the iris, and you can see the kind of haunting lunar landscape that it has. It really looks like it's something out of this world, and you can see here that the surface of the iris is not really glossy and smooth as it looks like from far away, but it's actually kind of rough and irregular, and it has a lot of fibers and strings on it. And here, subhanAllah, we have what is called heterochromia, or multiple colors in the iris. Here you can see that the iris has blue and brown in it, and this just means that that region of the iris doesn't have as many cells producing the dye or the melanin pigment, so it looks a lot lighter than the other half of the eye. And here you can actually see the reverse of that pattern, where most of it is blue, and then you have some areas in the iris which are brown. And here we have probably what looks like a sky blue iris from far away, and here you have a beautiful blue iris, subhanAllah. And here I found something amazing, subhanAllah, when I looked at animals' irises, and they actually have some of the most amazing irises. You can see here we have a llama iris, and it has an unbelievable shape, subhanAllah. You can see this would be the iris here, this brown part, and it has these frills or folds on the edge of the iris, and then you can see the sky blue behind, which is the pupil. And Allah has given every creature organs that function in a way that suits their needs and their lives best. And now is reflection time. Allah's creation not only has amazing functionality and great systems, but it also has stunning beauty which Allah has put in His creation. Next time you see a beautiful iris or anything beautiful, remember to say MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, and remember the beauty that Allah has created for us in paradise. So let's work towards that.
والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب قل أنبئكم بخير من ذلكم للذين اتقوا عند ربهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وأزواج مطهرة ورضوان من الله والله بصير بالعباد.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we'll see you next time inshallah.